Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so honored to have back on the show an incredible Grammy award-winning artist who has a foot in the bluegrass and, of course, country music, the one and only Ricky Skaggs.
How are you?
It's great to see you.
Again, wow, it's been a while.
You know, I feel like
a minute or two.
The only time I see you, Ricky, is like on the stage for the Opry. So do you have like a little cot there or something? I mean, do you stay there?
I do, yeah. I go take naps in between sets, yeah.
It's like
I don't get the Opry dogs anymore like I used to did, so I go back and take a nap.
You're like the Opry ambassador.
Getting up there, you know, there's a few that's been there longer than me, but I've been there 41 years.
Which is hard to believe.
Yeah,
1982,
I know.
the youngest Opry member at that time.
Yep, and I think Allison now has beat me when she joined the Opry. She was a little younger, so it's quite a thing, and I'm really honored to be a member of such a great organization. It's a huge pillar in country music. I mean,
really
the Grand
is.
Ole Opry is just, I mean, it's synonymous really with country music. And you go around the world and people hear about the Grand Ole Opry. They know about it. They'll ask you questions about it.
Well, and you're such a tie to the past, but we've got to talk about also your Christmas tour with special guests.
Yeah.
So you got the Kentucky Thunder with you, and I understand this, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is like the best lineup of musicians you've had in Kentucky Thunder. Not knocking anybody from the past, but you have been, you know, written up as saying that, Ricky.
I have been, and I mean it. You know, the guys are, it's a well-oiled machine. It's amazing. You know, they can play anything and everything. I mean, if I bring in a new song, a new instrumental that I just heard, and you know, and want to work it up, you know, they listen to it. And before I'm even in the second turnaround of it, they're on it. They're starting to play it, you know, and we've done that, you know, many times.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, every time too, when I've seen you on tour, you know, whether a concert or also at the Opry, it's always just on fire. I mean, the musicianship, and I know with this Christmas tour that you're doing, but you haven't done a Christmas tour in 7 years?
It's been a while. I mean, we tell people that when our kids moved away, we lost half our band, which is kind of true. We lost, you know, Molly and Luke, especially, and now Luke's married and got a little 3-year-old son, and they're expecting again, and so that's so exciting. We're really excited about that, especially Miss Sharon. She is so excited about that. Loves them grandkids, and that's why God called them grand, because they are so wonderful.
Well, you know, you mentioned Sharon too. It's like with the Whites.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, you've got like, you know, musical heritage on either side.
Yeah.
Now it says special guests. I'm kind of wondering, you know, with all these Christmas shows you're doing, will we know the special guest until, I mean, it's like that night?
You know, there may be some that will trip out there and, you know, fall out on the stage. No. I know Sharon and Cheryl will be there for sure. My wife Sharon and her sister Cheryl of the Whites. And Andy Leftwich and Rachel, which is Cheryl's daughter.
Right.
You know, they're married. Andy was in my band for years, played fiddle.
Oh, yeah.
And so we know they'll be there. And so and Luke says he's coming. Molly, we're still kind of waiting to see if her schedule's going to work out where she can come. You know, she works for a ministry over in North Carolina called A Place for the Heart, and they have this great band they work with called Cageless Birds.
I've heard of
it. If you want to look them up, they do all this. They write all this music, but it's all worship music, and it's so amazing. Of course, Molly redid the old song, Ain't No Grave. She rewrote new verses for it and just did a whole new style of it. And she's had more hits on you know, YouTube on that song than I've had with all of my songs collectively for, what, 40 years now? You know, she said, oh, Dad, it ain't a big deal. I said, it is a big deal, sis.
It's a big deal, but also, I mean, you know, I got to brag on you. I mean, with 12 #1 hits, 12 top 20 albums. I mean, you know, you've got a great body of works. Besides your hit song, Country Boy, which, you know, was in my head while I was preparing for this interview. And also the great videos. You always had so much fun on those videos.
Yes, we love that video. Have Bill Monroe in it, you know, as my Uncle Pen from Tennessee.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how great is that? I mean, you know, and that's the thing, too. We were talking about your book, which it came out in 2013. And decade has passed.
A lot has happened since then.
Yeah, a few
We
things.
oughta-
I mean, besides, let's see, you know, you have 3 honorary doctorates. Also, you have your honorary GED from high school now, which thrilled your mother.
It did. Yes, it did. She's in heaven, but I know she knew about it, you know. And you know, the thing President Trump gave me the National
so
Medal
bring
of
that up.
Arts.
Right.
Man, that's nothing to sneeze at right there.
Well, I mean,
that's
you
pretty
do have like a
amazing.
separate room in the house just for the awards, for the Grammys, 15 Grammys, ACMs, CMAs, IBMAs, I think 13 IBMAs, 2 Dove Awards.
Yeah.
I can keep going. Musicians Hall of Fame, Country Music Hall of Fame,
Bluegrass,
Bluegrass Hall of Fame. I mean, it's like
gospel music,
right.
fiddlers. I couldn't believe that one. I got 3 Hall of Fames in 1 year, and it was absolutely crazy. I thought, what's happening here? But it was 2018. There was 3 that year.
Well, you know, and what
I
it
thought,
makes me
that's
think of though,
nuts.
also, Ricky, is that, you know, and we were talking even, you know, earlier to where, you know, a young kid came up to you and was dressed like Bill Monroe, and you know, you gave him one of your own guitar picks.
Yeah.
But it seems like that, you know, is kind of completing that circle, like what Bill Monroe did with you when
Yeah.
little Ricky Skaggs came up on stage at 5 years old.
Yeah.
And how that kind of set the trend for your future.
I dared not pick him up, though, like Mr. Monroe did me. The stage at the Opry is about this tall. The stage at this little high school is like down here. And so when I was, you know, 6 years old, Mr. Monroe just grabbed me by the arm and just
Right.
like lifted me up like a sack of potatoes. And so it wasn't no big deal to him then. But
Well, and then also, I mean, what, a few years later with Flatt and Scruggs.
oh yeah, yeah. You know, I'd searched high and low for a video because I'd seen a lot of Flatt and Scruggs old television videos
Totally.
that people were collecting and stuff, and I'd always say, man, I was on there when I was like 7 years old, and I sure would like to see one. And I even called Earl and Louise when I moved to Nashville,
Right.
and was getting a start and getting a record deal with CBS, and they said we don't hardly have any of those, you know, and we don't have anything that you were on, you know.
Right.
So finally it showed up, you know, and God, sat down with Molly and Luke, my youngest kids, you know, and we sat down on the couch and got to watch that show. And that's really honestly, that was the first time that I had seen that video. Wow. Because I didn't even watch it live when it came on TV.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad was sitting there, and my brother and sister were sitting there in Goodlettsville at the house watching it. But when I saw myself walk out on the screen, you know, and grab, you know, Lester Flatt by the coattail and get his attention, you know, I freaked out when I saw myself. I mean, being a little kid from the hills of Kentucky,
Right.
you know, and seeing videotape and seeing myself
Right.
live, and here I am. So
And with your heroes.
yeah, and I ran to my bedroom and got under my bed. I listened to it, but I couldn't watch it.
Wow.
And so all those years went by that I never saw it.
But how incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and now, you know, generations are coming up to you, Ricky,
Yeah.
and looking to you as what you, and then, once again, not to embarrass you, but Chet Atkins stated, you know, that you were helping to save country music with what you were doing.
I always tell people that Chet was not on his meds that day. So, no, he he was a great
but
encourager.
Chet did not throw
yeah.
around those things, you know, he meant it.
Yeah, and he did, and he was a sweet guy, really an encourager, you know, and we had a great friendship, you know. And he actually came in and played on a recut of a Merle Travis song that I'd done called "Sweet Temptation."
Yes.
Got Chet in to play guitar on it, and that was a big thrill.
Well, you know, and a lot of our viewers, I'm sure, also know, you know, when you started playing with Ralph Stanley, you and Keith Whitley.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think people forget that, you know, you and Keith both coming out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously in your book, Kentucky Traveler, it's
Yeah.
like that history,
Yeah.
you know, of you guys touring with, you know, with Ralph.
Yeah.
And then launching out on your solo career,
Yeah.
which has obviously done so well. And
Yeah. That was those were really formative years. Those years with Ralph, because Carter, his brother, had passed away in '66.
Right.
And getting to work with Ralph in in the early 70s. You know, he'd gone through a couple of different lead singers. Larry Sparks had come and then left the band, and a guy named Roy Lee Centers was a really great singer and sung a lot like Carter. And so we were just dying to go see him, me and Keith, and so we couldn't drive. And it was at a beer joint, so we couldn't have got in anyway if we'd have hitchhiked.
Right.
So our dad took us over there, and my dad should have gotten royalties on the American Express card, "Don't leave home without it." That phrase, he should have, because he coined that phrase long before they ever come out with that, "Don't leave home without your instruments." So we were packed and loaded, you know, with instruments in the car. Ralph's bus breaks down on the way to the show in Fort Gay, West Virginia.
Yeah.
And so we were there, and how the beer joint owner even knew that we played and sang. I don't know how he knew that, but he came up to the table and said Ralph called in and said he's going to be about 45 minutes late, and the place was probably had 100 people in it or 75 people in it, beer joint, and he said, "Can y'all get up and sing a few things?" And and Dad said, "Let's go out and get them instruments," and so my dad had his guitar. Keith's brother Dwight had his banjo.
Right.
Keith had his guitar, and I had my mandolin and fiddle. And so we were playing when Ralph walks in, and oh my God, I was so embarrassed to be on his stage at his show singing his songs. That's about all that Keith and I knew was a Stanley Brothers song. So
right.
Here comes Ralph walking in, and he doesn't go to the dressing room like all the rest of the band did.
Yeah.
Ralph pulled up a bar stool out there with his banjo in the case and sat there and watched us for about 15 minutes. And I could see him in the corner of my eye, and I kept kind of moving away, and so I didn't have to see him because I was singing his parts, even singing the tenor with Keith. So.
Right.
But after the thing was over, we went back there, and we were so embarrassed that our cases were laying in their way in the floor like a bunch of kids leaving toys around. And I said, so sorry, they just have to step over fiddle cases and all. And he said, "You boys did good." And Curly Ray Klein said, "Yeah," said, "You sound just like the Stanley Brothers, And, and of course, our heads
What a compliment.
started to get big. And then my mom was, when we got home, was talking about it, and she made it get small again. She would never let me get heady.
She kept you in check.
She did. Boy,
But she's also the ones that you started doing harmonies with.
Yes,
As
I
a small
listened to her
child.
singing harmony with Dad, and I started singing her part. Yeah.
And you got to think about this too, Ricky. Now, as your career continues to flourish and everything else, to where these kids now are looking up to you.
Yeah.
On the music that you're doing with these tours and with the opera and everything else, to where now you are reflecting that heritage. You're tied to those incredible musicians that you worked with.
Well, it is something to be able to carry the love and carry the music and the respect that I had for those people. They weren't not perfect people at all, and neither am I perfect. But they had to endure so much that, they didn't start out in a bus.
Right.
A lot of these young guys now, comes out to play bluegrass, and their first trip on the road is in a bus and in a bunk.
Right.
Letting a driver up there driving, they have no idea what it's like riding in a station wagon with 6 people and a bass fiddle in the back.
Or having your dad drive you.
Oh yeah, that's right, everywhere. And so anyway, but it's, it is a thing that I'm thankful that I'm in a place in my life where, where people want to know about the history.
Right.
And I'm just doing a restoration on my studio, my recording studio in Hendersonville.
Right.
And we shut down for COVID and didn't reopen, And but we've doing a big restoration up there, and it's going to be better than ever before. And
so there'll be new music coming out next year?
Yes, there will be new music, and we hope we'll have a lot of artists that come in there and record, because they'll get to use microphones that they've only seen pictures of.
Wow.
They'll see outboard gear in the control room in there that they've only seen pictures of. And so we got a lot of old vintage stuff in there.
And hopefully some pictures of you,
yeah.
you know, with some of the artists that you've played with over the years.
Well, I'm more interested in showcasing other artists. I mean, they can see my mug, you know, anytime. But you know, I know the younger people, they really they want to know history.
Right.
And so we have an old analog 2-inch Studer, you know, tape machine, and a lot of kids want to record on tape.
You can't
like
beat the
we
warmth.
used to,
Right.
and you know, in the early days,
Yeah.
and it sounds so great. And you know, so we've got that. We've got Pro Tools. We've got Radar. You know, we got all these great recording formats that just sound so great.
I got a feeling you're going to be booked up, Ricky.
Well, I sure hope so. But you know, we're really going to focus a lot about history and let them see musicians and singers and even instrument builders that they never knew about, you know, and microphone builders like George Neumann, Mr. Sennheiser, you know, Mr. Scheps that made the Scheps microphones in Germany, and they just need to know who these old cats were, you know. Post World War II, in the late 40s, early 50s, they started making these microphones because music was exploding in America, and
had to
so
amplify it.
Got to have it. Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure for our viewers, Ricky, they know where to go for the Christmas tour, because you're going to be doing the Ryman also. There's going to be special guests. You know, all these shows. There needs to be an update to the book. People can book in the recording studio. New music in 2024.
Yes.
Where do they go for everything? Ricky Skaggs, for the website, social media, you name it.
Well, RS Entertainment is a great place to go. Ricky Skaggs, RS Entertainment, SkaggsFamilyRecords.com you can go to. So they can go there and find our tour dates. They can go there and find out what we're doing and all of that. So, and actually, you know, Skaggs Place Studio is going to have its own website now.
Wow.
So that's the first time we've really
So people can book in there to
that.
cut their EPs, their albums, their demos, everything.
Or come there and shoot videos. You know, it's
incredible.
a great room to shoot videos in because it's a lot of wood, you know, and it's just got some cool stuff there. So that'd be a great place.
I'm definitely going to have to come out and see it. And you know I'm going to see you on tour, because everybody needs to buy a ticket to come out and see this great Christmas show, because you probably need like one more mandolin, guitar, fiddle, something.
Yeah, we'll have...
These Martins won't pay for
We'll
themselves.
have lots of stuff on stage. So.
Well, and a lot of great music too. Ricky Skaggs, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for spending the time with me today. Great.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.